and I'm motivating. I was always growing up in the streets of Jersey City where you can catch me motivating you to stop drinking so we can, have our minds straight for tomorrow to escape this ghetto. And when I saw Yo Elliott speak, I'm like, that's me. That guy is me. So then I want to know, where the hell did you learn this information from? I said, where did you learn this from? I'm in school. I'm not learning this right now. Dug deep, and he had a video of saying something with my mentor. And then there I see Paul Chek. So one day I was online, and I was always trying to search for answers to dig deeper into the science I was learning at school. And this freaking guy kept on coming up, and it was annoying me because this guy did not look like he knew what he was talking about. This guy didn't look like a doctor. I'm programmed to look for people that are doctors. And this guy's name was Yo Elliott.
Elliott Hulse.
Yes.
Okay.
I came across Yo Elliott at 16. I didn't want to watch his videos. I'm going to be 100% honest with you because of the programming I had. Mm-hmm. This guy was jacked, looked like an older version of me. And I'm like, I don't want to talk. I don't listen to this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And then one day, I couldn't get rid of this back pain. My whole life, I had back and I had rheumatoid arthritis. Could not get rid of it. And I'm like, he had a video saying why your back is jacked up. So I avoided it for like 5 months. Every time I was looking up back pain, I was like, don't listen to this guy. So one day I go click the video, and this guy goes, the reason why your back is jacked up is because your guts are messed up. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what the hell did he just say? So I rewinded it. And he goes, here's some signs that you know your gut's messed up. Farting, bloating. And I'm like, oh my God, that's me. So I start digging in all his videos. And as I'm watching him, my ego did not want to accept none of his information, but there was this gut feeling, this intuition in my gut and my heart that not only that I have to dig deeper, but a sense of finally I found me. I found who I am.
Yeah. Golden thread.
So when I was growing up, I was always trying to figure out, I'm half black, half white. Who am I? I can't rap. I can't relate to these rappers. I can't relate to nobody. And I'm motivating. I was always growing up in the streets of Jersey City where you can catch me motivating you to stop drinking so we can, have our minds straight for tomorrow to escape this ghetto. And when I saw Yo Elliott speak, I'm like, that's me. That guy is me. So then I want to know, where the hell did you learn this information from? I said, where did you learn this from? I'm in school. I'm not learning this right now. Dug deep, and he had a video of saying something with my mentor. And then there I see Paul Chek. I see Yo Elliott and Paul. So I click on the video, and then I didn't hear a word you said. I wasn't hearing anything you said yet. The video just started. What made me want to listen more is I studied body language because when I used to come out my bedroom, I used to have to know what mom I had that day.
Yeah.
Do I have mom that's going to beat the hell out of me? Mm-hmm. Is mom high, drunk? I can tell by what she's doing, by hearing. And then when I looked at her shoulders, her eyes. Mm-hmm. So and then living in Jersey City in the ghetto, I had to, is this guy going to rob me?
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to rob me, I'm going the other way. Mm. So I saw how Yo Elliott was standing next to you. And I said, this is the guy I look up to, but I can just tell by his body language that he's all ears with this guy, and I don't care what the hell this guy has to say. I'm listening to everything he says. So I listen to the video, and then that's when I go deep on your work. Mm. Then I'm like, oh, this guy's a wizard. So then that's when I called Dad, and I said, Dad, I found someone smarter than you. So immediately I was like, okay, I want to get the book that you had, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. And I was so broke. I was 16 at the time.
You should have just emailed me. I'd have given it to you.
You know what's great? I didn't even have access to email. We only had access to email in the morning when I lived in a hotel. But I didn't even know what email was. I was so out of that world.
Well, I'll give you a tip. Next time, just sit real still, focus totally on me, and send me your message and keep doing it until you get a call or an email or something.
That is actually what I did.
I can pick those messages up.
I'm pretty sure. That's actually, well, as I go into the story, that I actually start to do that even more. That's why I told you before we start the podcast, I'm like, you're going to have a green shirt on, because in my imagination, I visioned this right here.
Yeah.
And this is what got me through the hardest days of my life, by
That's
the way.
great.
So I see these videos by you, and then I'm like, so then now, as I'm growing up, I was trying to get how to eat, move, and be healthy. But tell you the truth, you gave so much information that I read 45,000 books that you made, but you have to put the effort in. A lot of people are not willing to put the effort in to look in your blogs, actually sit down and watch a 30-minute video. I did all of that. I have notebooks of your work. So I started to apply these things to my life.
I left a lot of videos for you, didn't I?
Yes, you did. And those videos, I remember one day I was watching a video you made, and you said that you said that there's only so much fast food information you can give.
Right.
And you kind of changed my perspective on investing into education.
Yeah, good.
But at the same time, you also said in one of the videos that it's your way of giving back to the universe. And I'm like, I don't think this guy understands that he's actually getting me through what I'm going through for free. And I can't one day, I just couldn't wait to thank you one day.
That's why I do it. You know how many thousands of hours I've put in? There's over 750 videos on my channel. I did one a week for, I don't know, Penny had me start doing them in maybe 2005 or 6. I can't remember. But I've pretty much done a video a week since then. And it's just my way of, one of the things that would happen is people would keep emailing me saying they couldn't afford How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. And I would say, well, you're probably spending more than that on junk food right now.
Exactly.
And coffee and whatever else. But, my philosophy has always been to be an information Santa Claus. Santa comes down the chimney and he leaves you something nice. And he doesn't charge you anything. He makes a long trip from the North Pole to get there, and he's smart enough to use reindeers, not airlines. So he doesn't leave any carbon footprint. And because just like you're saying, I've been through a lot of hard times myself, and there's always been key people in my life that somehow managed to teach me something or give me something without listing all their names. I did a podcast on the people that changed my life, and I felt obligated looking out into the world and seeing how many people are lost and confused and getting bullshit information and experts that aren't even close to being experts and everything else. And I just felt that it was because I'd had so many letters from people saying, I can't afford to take your course, I can't afford to buy your book, I can't afford to go to the Institute or whatever. So I just felt that it was my responsibility spiritually to the rest of myself, because philosophically I believe that there's only one being that exists, and that's what we call God. And so I felt obligated to make sure that anyone that could access video could at least find solutions or know what questions to ask their doctors or their therapists so that they could have a rational approach to what was going on to begin to understand it. So as you know, I've done videos on everything from sex to consciousness to love to God to food to you name it, right? Obviously, you've watched a lot of them, so
I watched them over and over again.
Yeah, well,
the same video like 1,000 times.
Well, you probably got a better education than you would have gotten in a university.
Well, that's the interesting thing. When I actually started to go to school, I had a lot of challenges with my professors because
of course you did.
I'm like, no, that's not true. That's not how nutrition works. I'm like, look, because I finally got my hands on the book. Yeah. I'm like, no, look at this. You see this information. This is what we have to go by. And then I started to notice, the program is deep.
Yes.
There's a deep programming going on. And I was never one to hold back, because if I say something, it looks like this kid that's from the ghetto has a problem. But when I started to actually, the best thing about the information is I applied it. As soon as I started to apply it, one of the first things is a fungal infection. I lived in mold houses. And I studied the hell out of your fungal infection information. I applied it, and I saw my attention disorder leave.
Yes.
My depression leave. These pimples on my face disappear.
Yep.
So
fungal mycotoxins are extremely toxic. They're some of the most dangerous chemicals in the world. I don't know if you know this, but they use them in military warfare. I actually saw a video once doing some research where they had extracted the fungal mycotoxins and made a liquid out of it. And they had a rat in a glass box, and the scientists dropped one drop of this liquid from fungal mycotoxins, and it killed the rat instantly. The rat just fell over and dropped dead with one drop of fungal mycotoxins. And they're considered to be some of the most dangerous chemicals in the world. And some of the most sick people I've ever had to work with are people that didn't realize they had a fungal infection in their house.
Mold, right?
Mold, yeah.
Yeah, so I see that a lot today too. So when I went through the stuff, like the school, as I'm going through school, I already in my mind, when my career was over, in the back of my mind, I said, I have to figure out how to do what Elliot Hulse did. I wanted to be the next Yo Elliot. That was my goal. I was like, I want to, especially when Yo Elliot, I'm talking about the Yo Elliot in 2000, from 2009 to 2014. That was my guy. I'm like, I was obsessed over this guy, like, because I saw him turn his dream into green, is what I call it.
Yeah.
Turning his dream into making a beautiful business, but also helping millions of people. So immediately I started to make videos while I was in college, and I started to practice making videos, and I felt my ego say, no, go take the safe route and go to NFL, or take the safe route and become the assistant strength and conditioning coach at Delaware with my coach. But instead I said, you know what? Here's what I have to do. I feel in my heart, literally in my heart, that I have to go and become the next Yo Elliot. Now, I didn't know how. Nobody left a blueprint. But I knew one thing he did. He studied your work. I started studying your work. So that day when I had that light bulb moment of my career ending in football, I said, okay, now I'm going to put everything my whole life into trying to become the next Yo. There'll never be another Paul Chek. There'll never be another Yo Elliot. But I said, I need to do what these guys are doing. I want to get to that type of level. I graduated college. Now when I graduate college, my dad has an apartment, but he has it in one of the worst neighborhoods in New Jersey. It was in Newark, New Jersey. And it was a very, very, it was a scary neighborhood that
I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. You know what's strange? I'm trying to remember. 1988 was either the men's or the women's Olympic trials, and the marathon were held there. And I was the therapist for both the men's and the women's, and I had 10 athletes that I coached make it to the Olympic trials. So I ended up being in Newark, New Jersey for, I think, a week. And the first thing I noticed, I could not find food worth eating anywhere.
No, yep.
And there was a huge problem with obesity there. And forgive me for saying, but I felt like I was in a shithole. I'm like, well, who in the hell would live here?
No, you gotta. Listen, I feel the same way.
I'm like, why did they put the friggin' marathon trials here? I mean, these poor athletes are. I remember I went to a restaurant, and this is a long time ago, and the waitress is a huge fat lady, and she brought me a bunch of white bread, and I said, I'm just curious, do you guys even have brown bread or whole grain bread? And she looked at me and she said, what's that? I'm like, oh my God, we're in big trouble.
So what started to happen in New Jersey is that on the Hudson River, you have Jersey City and Hoboken, and then you have Bayonne on the other side. What happens is it started to be, I call it baby Manhattan. So people started to build brand new housing and buildings on the Hudson River. So people that went to New York, it was too expensive to get an apartment, come over to New Jersey and get an apartment for cheaper, and it's new.
Right.
So what that did is it raised the rent on people that were, didn't have money, and they all started to move back, and a lot of them ended up in Newark. Now, not to say everybody, but Newark was always a struggling city when it came down to that. And it was a city that I didn't like going to because, like I said, in Jersey City, I was protected. The drug dealers and the gang guys knew who I was, and they protected me. This neighborhood, they don't care who you are. So when I graduated college, I'm like, where am I going to live? I didn't even think about these things because I was planning to go to the NFL. And my girlfriend's father pulls me to the side. Tells my girlfriend, hey, listen, you're a good kid, and I know you're going to be successful, so you can come live with us in Washington Heights. So they had this apartment, probably a 700 square foot apartment in Washington Heights. But when you enter his home, he made it feel like you were in Tribeca. He redid everything. But Washington Heights is one of the worst neighborhoods in New York, right? So I go from one ghetto to another. But here's the thing. Number one, when I went there, I always had clean clothes. I had heat. I had hot water. And this was in 2017. And I knew it was somewhere I was going to go that had internet, and it was in New York City. I can get on a train and train people, you know?
You know, it's strange. You're saying this was only 2017. What is this,
2022, 5 years ago.
5 years ago. It's a very interesting thing for me because, you know, I'm 61, so 2017 for me feels like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got paintings on the wall I did in 2017. You know, what's coming to me is that you're destiny's child. It's just like the unfolding. It's in your life. It's moving quite fast. How old are you, Nate?
I turned 29. 29.
You're 29, right? So, you know, it's like you're living a very accelerated life. Because to go from there in 2017 to having your first place to have clean clothes and a shower and a stable environment to where you're at now is I mean, that's like getting shot out of a cannon.
Yeah. I say my whole life, though, I use my imagination, and I never accepted. I knew I was going to do what I'm doing today. So it feels like I was shot out of a cannon, but at the same time, it felt like I was this interview right now between you and I did this already in my mind 1,000 times. When you were interviewing other people, I imagined that anytime your guest responded, that was me. I imagine myself sitting there. I really did that. My mind was something that got me out of all of this. But at the same time, there's something that I noticed side effects from this as well. So as great as it sounds that I was doing, the side effects is it's hard for me to sit down on a Monday after accomplishing everything and not doing something else, working on something.
Yeah,
right?
It's hard to put a rein on.
Yeah, because I became obsessed. You know what? Yeah, I became obsessed with making sure I'm scoping out the person that I want to become. I'm doing something to make sure that happens.
Yeah. Well, at your age, that's a normal. There's a lot of drive when you're that age to create your identity and have a sense of who you are, and to, if you're healthy, to do something in the world. And I got news for you. That's going to go on for a while.
Hey, listen, you got to tell me, tell my partner.
Well, you know, the thing is, you know, when I was in the age you're at now, I was like a literal ball of fire. I was intensely driven. I came to the realization what I was here in the world to do the day I became the trainer of the Army boxing team, and then had the experience of seeing how my knowledge and my therapy that I did for the fighters enhanced their performance, and the coaches, and saying, whatever the hell you're doing, it's working, because, you know, the injury rate dropped down dramatically and their athletic ability improved dramatically. And I was in fights with the coaches all the time because they kept wanting to do stupid stuff, and I kept having to try to explain to them why that wasn't working. And they would say, how can you say that to us? Do you know how many champions we've created? And you know what I would say to them? I have a more important question you should ask. how many have you ruined along the way?